Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Hopefully, you've all had a triumphant Tuesday. I know the cryptocurrency market certainly hasn't, and that's what we're going to be getting into in this daily update, coming live, or not live, this is pre-recorded to you from a very messy office at the moment. We're having a little bit of a move around. We've got some announcements to make before we get into the actual market update, and that is that we have officially launched our Patreon. I know many of you were looking for this, looking forward to it, and we are going to officially launch it today with 3 tiers. I will be bringing out a video later on explaining exactly what it is that you get within these tiers. You can go over and have a look on Patreon. The link is in the description at these tiers for yourself. And if you're unsure, wait until later on when I release a video explaining exactly what you're going to get. It's something I'm extremely excited to be delivering, and it's a way we've limited the top tier to about 200 people. The reason being is I really want it to be a personal thing, and I really want to invest my time and efforts into you guys that decide to hop on board. So that's enough of that. Watch out for the video coming out later. Of course, there are 3 tiers. You've got the associate tier, the community tier, and the fortune seeker tier, which is the one I would recommend, as you get a whole list of exclusive accesses, weekly meetings, newsletters, portfolio management, 100x small altcoin watch list, crypto watch lists, you name it, you get it in this video, including all the TA updates and everything of the sorts and trading ideas. So let's get into the daily cryptocurrency market update. Lots of people commented on yesterday's video, and the title quite literally was, don't FOMO. Do not FOMO into these pumps that the cryptocurrency market is going to receive just yet. You know, because the main reason we maintain a stance that this market is going lower is because we understand the gravity of the situation that we are currently in. It is not a time for markets to flourish, given what the Federal Reserve are doing and the kind of lay of the economic landscape. It just doesn't equate to a runaway bull market conditions. Now, that is going to change. I think a lot of people are looking at this and they're going, yeah, we're probably going to do something similar to 2018, 2019. It's going to be a 2-year-long bear market before we see any kind of significant upside. I think the bull comes a lot sooner than people expect, and I think it comes with a Fed pivot. They're going to have to undo all the monetary tightening that they're currently doing at some point, because they are going to break something. That's when we leverage back into crypto. That's when we start to build our portfolio back up and get rid of our cash position, because cash is trash. The reason that we hold it at the moment is quite simple, because we think it's going to maintain its value better than a restricting cryptocurrency and equity market, given the current landscape that we're in. We're also going to talk about a number of things. We've spoken about on-chain metrics quite a bit, because it's not just technicals that we're looking at. It's not just fundamentals that we're looking at. We're also looking at on-chain metrics, which maybe would come into the technical category. They all suggest that we haven't had the kind of bottoming out event that we're looking for. And when do we think that bottoming out event comes? And we've gone into great detail, including trade setups on our Patreon. We think the bottom event comes essentially at the lower band of your long-term regression, and also towards your 200 weekly moving average, and it could go below this, but this is where I'm aiming for Bitcoin. And of course, we've got altcoin strategies that really derive from Bitcoin and where it bottoms. This is where I'm aiming for this market to go, and you've got to ask yourself, okay, well, why doesn't it get there? And the reasons for it going down there far outweigh the reasons for it not. Something to absolutely understand. And yesterday, we'll drop down the timeframes before we get into a little bit. We're going to be talking about the fact that Nancy Pelosi just bought Apple and Microsoft. Is the bottom in? I mean, she has been an exceptional stock market caller. And of course, she has very close relationships to the government and the Federal Reserve. And it's, you know, a real question, should she even be allowed to partake in this? And she trades better than the quant funds out there. We'll also talk about a number of other things. But essentially, let's drop down the time frames. This is only going to be a short and sweet update, or was certainly supposed to only be a short and sweet update. You know, this is what we had yesterday. And the same crowd show up every single time. Oh, you know, you've missed it. You're never going to get crypto so cheap. Only for us to get rejected. And the reason we're getting rejected, one, you've got traders that are basically just owning this market. And two, the macro conditions really dictate that this market should go lower. So you're betting against, you're swimming against the tide, expecting some kind of run up. And I don't really want to spoil it because we've gone into more detail about the trade setup I'm looking for. But one thing that is repeating is this structure over here. From the start of the year, you had this kind of, it's a bear flag really. And now you're setting up similarly. Let's maybe drop and see if we can pull up a different. Can you see this? This is a bear flag. This is likely going to be similar. And it's very similar in terms of structure and could definitely allow, and we've gone into far, far more detail in my Patreon on this, on my trade ideas. You could definitely see this just essentially rinsing and repeating. And that would give me my perfect short entry that I've been talking about. You know, I can still see markets seeing a little bit more upside. The issue is, don't bet on it, you know, because so far we've seen every rally that we've had very quickly killed off by the environment that we're in. And I think the stock market did rally yesterday, certainly in the morning, and then actually still finished up, but the rally was somewhat weak. And we are looking for, certainly on the S&P, this to be quite a technical support and resistance flip. And we may have got that deviation that's now going to lead us to the downside. If equities go down, Bitcoin goes down. If Bitcoin goes down, altcoins go down. And that's really what you need to understand. I think markets caught a little bit of hope with some comments made by, I can't quite remember the Fed chairman's name, or not the chairman, sorry, the Fed member's name, talking about they may have to pause rate hikes in September. Not if inflation persists. We've got inflation coming out on Friday. We're hopefully, with the Patreon members, going to be doing that live. So we'll set up some sort of a stream with all of us, a bit of a community meeting where we'll get the data and we'll take, not only watch what the markets do on the data, but we'll take the data and kind of add it into our thesis moving forwards. Because inflation doesn't really seem to be peaking, or it seems to have kind of reached an equilibrium. You know, this is nat gas, gone on to make a new all-time high. You've got crude oil looking like it's going to get up there. You've got things like wheat and a number of other things that are doing quite well. You know, these all factor into inflation. And the Fed's mandate right now is to kill off inflation. How do they do that? By upping interest rates. Interest rates put a squeeze on everything, because just at a human level, you know, not a corporate level, people have debt, becomes harder to service. Corporates have debt, becomes harder to service. You know, the government themselves have higher payments to make. It drives the demand for dollar, which essentially leads to dollar strength is bad for markets. You know, there's a huge correlation between Bitcoin and the dollar. We've gone into this in great length, but that's really enough for the technicals, because, you know, we very much till we're blue in the face re-emphasized continuously on these daily videos, and people kind of go, it's a bit like Groundhog Day, the direction that we think these markets are going in. There's no reason for us to deviate on that kind of a game plan until we've got to the targets that we get to. And like I say, this bull run comes a lot sooner than people expect. People expect 2-3 years of pain. That ain't going to happen, guys, because the Fed ain't going to be able to persist with what they're doing for even probably the next 6 months. They're going to have to pivot a lot sooner than people think, but it's going to come a lot later than people think in regards to how much damage they're going to actually cause to the stock and the equity market, because they have to. They've backed themselves into a corner. They literally, the Fed is the key a magician in terms of market manipulation. March 2020, liquidity into markets. We got to the end of last year and they started going, well, we're going to have to actually renege on that and start being unaccommodating. We're now living through that. So we've gone from a reverse, or are heading into a reverse of what we saw in March 2020. And you're already seeing altcoins give up significant gains. I mean, let's look at Phantom. Let's look at VeChain. These guys have literally almost round-tripped. And the pain is still on. The heat is still high on the stove, and we're in the frying pan, guys. Let's talk a little bit about some of the news. This was something, I'll be diving into this in more detail with my Patreon members, talking about on-chain metrics and how it really suggests that Bitcoin's coming lower. This was from, I'm not going to try and say his name, but I follow this guy. He's obviously very interested in the stock market. I find he releases some really useful stuff. Nancy Pelosi essentially just bought Apple and Microsoft. And she literally bought, have we got an Apple chart here? I think so. That's Amazon. She literally bought at the low here. So I think this report says that she bought on the 24th. She bought Apple on the 24th, right? That was here, guys. I mean, you can't make this up. So she's already done well, but is she only buying these options, these calls, as a way to hedge her short position. It's kind of probable, or as a way to kind of hedge a short position that she may have or her husband may have on or something like that. So I wouldn't take this as a bottoming indicator. However, are the Fed about to pivot? And this is what I mean by when I say the Fed are not going to be able to continue this up for an extended period of time. They're going to have to pivot. When that comes, I think is going to catch people by surprise. But I think at least for the next 2 meetings, they're going to do 50. They're also quantitative tightening, so they're taking away and actually dumping their balance sheet, reducing it. This is all negative for markets, and this is still the kind of bull pit that we're playing in, and we're going to base our thesis accordingly. And that's what we're trying to do in these daily cryptocurrency market updates. Did I have any other news for you before I wrap the video up? Top Fed official warns half rate rise may be needed in September. Very likely, because inflation, it's all about inflation. This is why Friday is a big day. We're going to do it live for the Patreon guys. And then we're going to, obviously we'll let you guys know what the story is with inflation. Because if inflation comes out hot, markets are going to absolutely wet the bed. If it comes out higher than it's previously been, I think the forecast's around about 8.3%, markets are going to wet the bed. Because they're going to go, right, the Fed are going to have to get even more serious than they already are because what they're doing isn't working. The problem is, there's this whole term stagflation being thrown around. That could be a very probable thing that we're moving towards. That would be pretty catastrophic for a lot of things, but may see benefits to something like Bitcoin and gold in certain areas. Last little bit that I want to share with you. The Fed risks future pain if it fails to curb inflation. Absolutely for everybody. So on that note, guys, we're going to love and leave you. This is the Patreon. Again, we will release a longer video if you guys are on the sidelines about whether to join it or not. But you can actually go and sign up now, and certainly for your tier 2 and tier 3 members, you'll get access to the Discord. And then, of course, tier 8, you'll get access to the weekly podcast that we provide and also the weekly newsletters. Tier 2 and tier 3 get all of that, plus many, many more benefits, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly the tier 3, which is what I'd recommend people go for. It's going to be a way for me to really get personal with people and try and create the best possible investors that we can, and whilst educating people on the crypto space and the kind of landscape that we're in. So that's really all I've got for you guys. If you enjoyed the content, a like is always appreciated, so is a comment. And I look forward to catching each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Have a fantastic Tuesday, guys, and I'll catch you all in the next one.